Hello everybody, Carol Garrison with Carol's Creative Escape. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, have been working with that company exclusively for about 10 and a half years, but I've been making cards for 30 years or more. My goal with my card making is simply to spread joy one card at a time, and also to help people find their own sense of creativity and show them that you too can make beautiful cards. I appreciate you taking time to join me tonight. I hope you've all had a great week. Mine was just kind of filled with work, getting some stuff done around the house and getting to spend some time with Cece, my daughter-in-law, as well as her mom this past weekend and my sister. So that was nice to be able to do that. You may hear some raindrops in the background. We have finally gotten some much needed rain here in Minnesota. In fact, on Sunday, we received overnight 2 inches of rain. It is still raining ever so lightly all day today, so things are still wet. We're very grateful for the rain because we've been in a pretty severe drought situation, which I know is different from a lot of the country, but like I said, we're grateful for the rain right now. Because it's been rainy, I've got a house full of crazy animals. The dog is going crazy and running in and out, and I've got cats flying off the walls down here too. Even though they don't go outside, it seems to have affected them. So we'll see how they do tonight with the video recording. And like I said, I hope everybody's had a great week. And let's go ahead. I'm so excited to share this card with you. I actually learned about this design a couple weeks ago and immediately knew this was one that I was going to have to share. So it finally fit into my rotation of cards. And I'm calling it the Triple Z card for lack of a better description for it. And let's go ahead and get you flipped over and we'll get started here. Get rid of my ceiling and we'll go right to my work table here. Make sure I'm on the right page. I am keeping my fingers crossed that we have no technical difficulties tonight. It has been a little rough the last couple weeks, but I think tonight it may actually work. I did turn off my internet and restart it in the hopes that that might help us tonight, but you never know. You never know. Let me just jiggle a little bit more and I'll get the cord plugged in and try to get it just a little bit straighter. There we go. Okay, add some more light, clear out my impromptu stand there, and we can get started. This card is actually using a stamp set that's been around for a while. It will feature the Brightest Glow Stamp set along with the coordinating labels of glow dies. This was in the annual catalog last year, or the holiday catalog, and it is back this season, and I like it just because there's lots of different holiday sentiments depending on, you know, season's greetings to Happy New Year and the Merry Christmas, and just kind of a variety. And then it's got these fun dies. I'm actually using this die and this die. This one is just one that simply cuts a circle of these little holes, but I have used one of my layering or my Stitch Elements dies to create the circle actually for that. And then I am also featuring the Winter Meadow Designer Series paper, which is in the new mini catalog. It's found on page 37, and that's this paper. And specifically, I'm using this one right here on the end, which when you see it in a much bigger pattern, looks like this. I like it because of this hint of blueberry bushel. This is one of our returning colors, and this was one of my favorite colors when it was out as an in color. And so I'm actually featuring that, making my holiday card tonight. And then I'm also going to use some of this ribbon too. It's a very pretty ribbon, and I'll share that with you in just a moment as well. So let's go ahead and get started with the card. Here are 2 samples. The first time I saw it, this is the card that I saw, and it was from my friend Linda Larson. She's another Stampin' Up! Design demonstrator. And you know, it took me a while to figure out how on earth did she do that? All of that cutting, how intricate is it? And then I watched and I went, oh my goodness, this card is so simple but looks Wow. So she's featuring the stamp set that was done by the Layering Leaves, which was designed by Rachel Tessman, who's part of the Stampin' Up group that I am. And a little bit of the Lost Lagoon for our color and some designer series paper. So just a beautiful card, super easy to make. So like I said, I created this almost exact copy of the one that I was shown. I made a few tweaks to make it my own, but here it is. And then this card, I used the, it's kind of funky designer series paper, and I have a love-hate relationship with it. I really like some pieces and really don't like some others, but it's called Delightfully Eclectic. And the purpose of my telling you, I don't really know if I like this paper or not, or I like the A side, not the B side sort of a thing, is because I think we can all learn. You don't have to like both sides. You can still make great things with this card. So I'm just using this stripe, and I use the Birthday Balloons stamp set, which fits perfectly in the circle. So on this one, I've got kind of the rectangle dies. Here I've got a circle die, and I've used some of the background stuff along with Cajun Craze. And look at these fun patterns. It's also part of that designer series paper. And so again, we've got this fantastic cards. I was able to bring in some gems, that type of thing. And so the card, like I said, that I'm making tonight is going to feature the blueberry bushel and that designer series paper. So let me start by giving you measurements, and then we can go from there. I am going to show you a little trick for cutting and scoring the Z strips. But we're going to start off right now with a piece of basic white cardstock that measures, what, you know what, I lost my measurements. Oh no, that's no good. All right, I can do this. I'll make sure it's not on the back. Well, good golly, here I thought I might make it through without a problem. Not a big deal. I was able to locate my measuring stick, so here we go. I have a piece that measures 7 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it is scored at 4 1/4 and again at 5 3/4. And then I'm going to have a piece of the blueberry bushel cardstock, which is also going to be 7 1/4. But the sheet you're going to cut is actually going to measure, I believe it's 4 1/2 inches. And this is also scored. I should have laid it out this way. Sorry about that. My little trick for saving a little bit of time when you're scoring is, like I said, this piece measures 4 1/2 by 7 1/4 inches. And it too is scored at 4 1/4 and 5 3/4, just like that basic white layer is. But what I did was scored it as a full sheet. So I only had to score those lines once. And then I went ahead and cut each strip at a width of 1 1/2 inches. So again, it was a solid sheet of paper. I scored it at 4 1/4, scored it at 5 3/4, and then I cut it into these 3 individual strips that actually measure 1 1/2 by the 7 1/4. So that just saves you a little bit of time. I've got a piece here that measures 4 by 5 1/4. That's actually going to go on the back of my card so that we have a little spot to write to our friends. And then I've got 3 pieces of the designer series paper. These measure 1 1/4 by 4 inches. And then I have 6 pieces of designer series paper that is 1 1/4 by 1 1/4. They're just little squares. And then finally, I felt like I needed a little bit to decorate the back piece of my card. And so I've got a 1/2 inch by 5 1/4, and then this is just a 1/4 inch by 5 1/4. And I'm just going to put it on the back of the card. You'll see that when we're done. And then I have a scrap of basic white that I heat embossed the sentiment, "All is Merry and Bright," and that just gives it a little bit of shine on the sentiment. And then here is the circle that I used to cut out with the die. Oops, this is one of those dies that leaves lots of little bits that you kind of have to clean up. And I missed one, but that's all right. And like I said, normally this is just a circle that would be part of a square, but I really wanted this as a circle, so I just used my largest circle of the Stitch Elements dies and cut around it, just worked to center it and cut around it. So I've got a few edges where I cut the circles and stuff, and that's quite fine with me. And so I'm going to be able to put my sentiment in the middle of that. So as usual, I would like to go ahead and just stamp the inside of my card so that I can just set that aside and let it dry as I'm working here. And so with these little narrow strips of adhesive, I do want to use my, whoops, take the cover off, Carol, to work better. I do want to use my silicone mat just so that I'm not getting adhesive on everything else. Okay, there we go. And we'll set that aside, and then this piece I want to put it on this side because I actually want the blue to show through. When you're doing adhesive on a narrow strip like that, one little trick you can do is just run your fingers down the edges anytime you do that and kind of tuck any adhesive that sticks over the edge. Just fold it underneath it, and then it's a done thing. All right, so I'm going to start by just putting this right on the edge of my cardstock here. Oops. And like I said, I fell in love with this layout, and I wanted to share this with you. So I'm hoping that you will like it as much as I do, and that you might even be inspired to give it a try. Okay, so that's how I'm going to decorate my card. I'm not going to do a lot of fancy stamping, but I am going to add one sentiment using my Blueberry Bushel ink and the Brightest Glow. I'm going to do Hoping Your Christmas Shines Bright with the Love of Family and Friends. And there we go. And then I just need to get a block. And again, I put my stamps onto my blocks crooked on purpose. For me, I get a straighter image when I'm focusing on my stamp rather than on my block and where the lines are with that. And I'm just going to do a test stamp. Okay, just to make sure I can see where things are at. And I will stamp it. And the reason I put my paper on first is I want it to be centered. I'm a little crooked, and we're going to live with that tonight. I kind of wanted my sentiment more centered from here to here rather than from here to here. And we'll set that aside. I'm going to grab my Simply Chamois and get this ink off of here so that I don't stick my card in there. Am I the only one that does that, or do you guys also sometimes get ink on your projects just from that card, or just from having that kind of stuff sitting out? So let's go ahead and do our folds. Both folds are going to end up being Mountain Valley. So we'll do that, and we'll do that. So here's where I've got my Mountain Valley. That's this piece right here. Okay. And I do want to make sure I burnish this well, so I've got a good crisp crease here. The same with this line. Okay. And then I'm also going to do a Mountain Valley fold with each of these pieces. Sometimes I have to really look at them. And actually, I need to go the other way so that it goes like that. You'll see why I'm saying that in just a minute here. So again, on each of these 3 pieces, I want to get a good crisp fold. And again, this card would make a beautiful birthday card. It would make a beautiful thank you card. Depending on your paper, I think you could make an absolutely stunning wedding card or congratulations card. The only thing I might not use it for is a sympathy card. It just seems a little too wow for that. You could do it. I just think it might be a little bit too much for that. All right, so now we've got everything scored. So let's go ahead and add our paper. Now, when we put these on, we're going to actually have our folds on opposite sides. So it'll go like that, if that makes sense. So as we start to adhere our designer paper, we want to make sure that we've got our folds going the correct way. And so right now I'm going to flip those over. So we'll start with these bigger pieces, and you can use different designer series paper if you wanted for each of these pieces, or the same piece, which is what I'm doing. And I'm just going to center it in this space. And then for these squares, I am opting to use on this particular one the same designer series paper, but like I did in here, I have similar patterns and I just alternated them. That choice is, whoops, there, completely up to you. Light touch, do that check mark, and you won't have things sticking like I am tonight. Light pressure, check mark, light pressure, check mark. I just have to keep reminding myself of that. And so that's how each of these pieces will be decorated. If you were really clever, you could probably keep your pieces in order that they were cut, so that when you lay them on this card, they will also be in order. I'm not that clever, and my cats were playing with my supplies, so I have no idea if they're in the same order anymore. Nothing is safe in my house with these kittens. If it's not tacked down, they will play with it. I even found one of my tape runners on the floor, and I know it didn't hop down by itself. So I'm sure they were batting at it while I was at work and having a good time. All right. Well, this weekend I'm going to head off to a girls crafting weekend, and I'm really looking forward to that. I'm actually going to try my hand at a little bit of scrapbooking using the Memories and More materials, as well as some of our designer series paper. I've got a couple trips that I've been meaning to do, and then of course I need to get, all right, I think this piece might be cut just a little bit too long, so it's hanging over the edge. I'm going to trim off just a little bit. And again, it's supposed to be 4 inches, and it looks like it's about 1/8 of an inch over. Not sure how that happened since I cut them all at the same time, but somehow I made it work. I'm just talented that way. Okay. There we go. So I'll have to see how things turn out and whether I'm prepared to show them off to people. All right. Now I've also lost one square, and that's all right. If I can't find it, I'm just going to make the card without it, and I'll cut another piece and do it afterwards. But I think even when I was laying my card pieces out, everybody saw 6 squares, right? So another one of my superpowers, losing pieces. How can that happen? Interesting. There it is. It just slid underneath something else on my desk. Okay. So then the other thing that I want to do, I'm choosing not to use dimensionals just because this card is already going to be a little bit thicker, but I think on this one I may pop the center piece up on dimensionals. We'll see what it looks like. The worst that's going to happen is I don't want to do it that way again, and I'll have to hand deliver this Christmas card, and that is not the end of the world. All right, now here comes the real magic. Triple Z fold. 1, 2, 3. And this is where you guys are going to go, oh my gosh, that card is simple. So to start with, I take this last square and I'm just adding adhesive to it. And I start it right at the top in the corner, trying to get this little white, if any, showing. And I put it down. And now I'm going to just ignore it for a few minutes. I'm going to take my next strip and again put it down with adhesive. Now I am going to do, because it's easier for me to center things, I'm going to do the bottom corner. I know some people could do this and do it in order and everything would line up. I find this works better for me. All right, and then last but not least, I will add adhesive to this square. And now I can center it, just eyeballing it. I'm not measuring it, between these two and feel comfortable that I've got it fairly evenly distributed. Not going to worry about it. All right, now these 3 pieces still need to be attached on this end. And what I have found works best for me is to just kind of flip the card over and run 2 pieces of adhesive right along here. Light touch, check mark. Light touch, check mark. Okay, and then I am just going to fold it back like this and fold this piece over, and then again line up the corners. And even though this is pretty much going to go where I need it to, I am still more comfortable doing my additions in the same order that I did the first time. All right, and voila, we have, whoops, a Triple Z folding card. Is that not cool? How easy it is to achieve it, and yet how fancy it looks. And it folds flat for mailing in a regular sized envelope. It's one that can be displayed by whoever gets to be lucky enough to receive a card like this, and could be saved for year after year. So with this, because there is no place to write on it, that's why I do the second piece of the basic white for the kind of the card inside, or in this case it's going to be the card back. So I'm going to add my adhesive to that and just put it on the back. Now I will say, make sure that you have it going the right direction before you adhere it. Otherwise you might just put it on upside down and have to redo that piece. Again, that might be experience talking on that one. Ta-da! So here's the front, here's the back. Fancy fold, stays standing up. All we've got to do is add our focal point as well as some bling, because it's a Christmas card and it calls for just a little bit of fancy. And you can kind of tell I'm using up bits and pieces of my dimensionals. Have no fear about using these edge pieces. Use up every little bit of dimensional that you can. No sense in throwing those edges away when they work. Now, this is going to be a lesson learning from what Carol did and what you shouldn't do. I didn't think about placement, and so my dimensionals are actually going to hang out. I didn't press them down real hard, fortunately. My dimensionals are going to hang out of my circle off the edges, so you'd be able to see them on that inside. So instead of doing it like I did, I'm going to put my dimensionals right here, kind of in the center. And that may mean I'm only going to need probably a couple of these pieces, but you know what, I've already pulled the back off of that, so we're just going to use it up anyhow. And now, instead of putting dimensionals on this piece, I am just going to put it right on here, making sure that this portion of my circle covers. You know what, I just realized I put this on the wrong side. You know how one side of your die cut is a little bit smoother than the other side? Well, again, easy fix. There we go. Nobody's going to know. And now I can just put this medallion kind of right in the center where I want it. My dimensionals are all covered, so I'll adhere that. And it doesn't pop it up a whole lot, but it does give this piece just a little bit of detail. And now we've got our front with that. And I'm going to use just my Rhinestone Basic Jewels. Let me grab my Take Your Pick tool and pick a couple of these off. And I don't know yet where I'm going to put them, but maybe one down here. I'll put one right there. And I'll grab one more little one and stick it up here. So it just adds a little bit of bling to the card without overwhelming it. You still get that as your center point, but it adds a little sparkle. So there you go. I hope you like my card. I hope you're inspired to try it. Once again, the measurements to make the card are, this is 5.5 by 7 1/4, scored at 4 1/4 and 5 3/4. And then you need a piece of cardstock that measures 4.5 by 7 1/4, and that too will be scored at 4 1/4 and 5 3/4. And then you'll take that sheet and cut it into 3 strips that are each 1.5 inches wide. But by doing it this way, you only have to score once. And the other thing that does is it makes sure it ensures that your score lines are all in the same place so that the folding mechanism will work for you. These 3 pieces of designer paper measure 1 1/4 by 4 inches, and the squares are 1 1/4 by 1 1/4. And then this piece will be however large your sentiment is that you're going to put on there. And then don't forget a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 cardstock. 4 by 5 1/4. 4 by 5 1/4 piece of cardstock that you can put on the back of your card. You could leave it blank, but this also gives just a little bit of support to the card too. And you're ready to go. So again, we've got this lovely one that I modeled after the one Linda Larson made. We've got this card using the eclectic something designer series paper. Why can't I remember that name? We'll find it just a second here. It is the Delightfully Eclectic designer series paper. And then this is the Winter Meadow, kind of Christmassy, florally type paper. Thanks everybody so much for joining me tonight. Feel free to share this video. And if you have, oh, you know what? I'm not quite done yet. I was still going to add, I told you I was going to use that ribbon. I'm going to add, I meant to do that, add this little bow too, because Just think it needed to pop a little bit more. So I'm just going to grab a glue dot on the back of my bow and add that right here. I even knew where I was going to place it. And again, this is the silver and white sheer ribbon that is in the mini catalog. So you can tell that it is very sheer with silver on the edges. It ties beautiful little bows. I really like that ribbon, so give it a whirl too. But thank you so much for joining me, and we will see everybody next week. Have a great week. Bye-bye.